foes and fuckers. It's Phreology Friday. Y'all like that alliteration, right? That's the preacher in me trying to come out again. Well, welcome back, Aaron. It is good to see your face. And before we get started, what's in the glass tonight?
Yeah, so I was kind of limited in my choices. I was telling you before we came on air that, where I live, we have just this small little liquor store. But they did have some Screwball peanut butter whiskey. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but
you had that before, tasty. And I need to get
Did I do that before?
Yep.
Yeah, I like there's a chocolate whiskey out there too that I like, but they didn't have that because I was going to mix them and have a Reese's. Matter
of fact, I think I saw that when I went to the liquor store the other day to get this, which is in my glass. It's Aberfeldy.
Looks amazing.
Malt Scotch. But somebody told me that this was really, really, really good, so I had to give it a go, and I'm not disappointed.
That's good.
I was going to actually break it open for the show tonight, but I said maybe I better taste this.
Yeah.
It would suck to be forced to drink something that but no, this was not a disappointment at all.
Yeah. Well, I was on a cruise, so I had the drink package. So
nice.
I did a lot of drinking last Friday, I'm sure.
I hope you drank everything from the top shelf, right?
As much as I could. Well, you could tell which bars. It was interesting because the bars out by the pool, they're no doubt they watered down their liquor. No doubt.
Yeah.
And it was cheaper stuff. But when you went where the shops were, it was full strength, top shelf. They wanted you drinking and loosening up before you went shopping. So you kind of learned those little nuances of things.
So before we go any further, I want to give a nod to Ben Urban, man. I got my hat, Ben. I'm trying to be like you when I grow up. I can't have the fantastic hair, but I can have a hat like you.
I love it.
So I want to give a shout out. A friend of mine, I went to high school with. His name is Ed Gordon, and he was the chief of news for BET for years. But Ed gave me the heads up on this place. It's called Straw and Wool in Phoenix, and it's funny that it's in Phoenix and it's a Black-owned business, and I had no idea that it existed until almost a year after I left, and Ed told me about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway.
Interesting. Good choice. I'm trying to get in here and share this really quick.
Yeah, I need to throw some shares out too, but it's been a long 2 weeks without you, man. I have to say this though, that Daryl and Ben came on and they brought the thunder last week. It was excellent. We had a uproarious good time.
Hey, man.
And I just have to say this, that Daryl was in rare form.
Yeah, I heard who you had for guests. I thought, oh crap, I might lose my seat.
No, but you know what though, I put this out there in the public forum that this whole phreology concept, we've talked about expanding this out, scaling it out, and I really think that Ben and Daryl have chemistry that they could do what you and I do, maybe even better.
Yeah,
even better.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea out there. I think that's great out there.
We want to get some folks out there that have some interesting content and good chemistry. And like I said, we're gonna scale this out, man. This is it's bigger than just Phreology Friday shit. There should be some kind of phreology every day of the week, whatever you call it, but it should be there. And we still haven't forgot about Tequila Tuesdays. That is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Tequila Tuesday on the boat too. Just saying.
Nice. Well, like I said, I hope you have the good stuff. That's the important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So since you're back, you're refreshed and rested, and you got a nice little tan going on. Let's go ahead and introduce the topic, and then let's get to work here, man.
Yeah. So the topic for tonight that I picked was staying positive in a negative world. And here's what that's born out of. Because I shut everything off for 2 weeks. Like literally when I got on the plane, except for when I had to get an Uber or something, I was on airplane mode in my phone the entire time. So I wasn't getting headlines. I wasn't getting negative social media crap. I was just completely unplugged from all that stuff. And then also able to relax, also able to get out of the country, also able to get around people that aren't controlled by the American narratives
Yep.
and all the stuff that we have here. And it felt pre-pandemic to me, to be honest.
Wow.
It just it was an interesting experience because it was like, this is how I remember life used to be definitely before 2020, maybe even before 2016, right? And I felt good.
That's good.
And people were kind, and people had manners, and everybody's having fun.
You must have
And
been outside of the United States.
it was, yeah. Well, even on the ship. I mean, I hate to say it, but even in LA, because we stayed in LA for a while, and then we got on the boat in Long Beach. But it's there were a lot of minorities. Or I don't. Is that a politically correct term? Can I say that, or am I supposed to say something else?
You can say it. You can say it.
All right, but there's just a lot of multiculturalism. There was a lot of Asians. There was a lot of Hispanics. There was a lot of Black people, and it just had a different vibe, dude. Like even right there in LA, it just had a different vibe than what I deal with in Bobert country here, where I live in Colorado, and so it felt really good, right? And I get back on the plane to come home, and first thing that comes up, well, I can't talk about that. So, yeah, I almost slipped. I can't talk about that. I'm gonna be breaking confidences. I get hit with something, and then the next thing that comes up is I see that that the courts released their ruling on Roe versus Wade, and I get on Facebook, and there's all this,
Yeah.
But we get on the plane, and immediately we're dealing with angry, entitled people. So the contrast for me was crazy, right? And then I was thinking about all the negativity in our world today, specifically here in America, specifically where I live.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I had a different feeling in LA. It just did. So with that, I just thought, how do I started asking myself this question: how do I maintain a more positive feeling, a more positive attitude when it seems like everything and when everybody around you is angry and negative, and it seems like, things are going so far backwards? And I have some thoughts on that, maybe for another episode or something.
Yeah.
But so I thought it'd just be good. I thought it'd just be fun to talk about, what can we do to stay positive in a negative world. Now, here's my nuance to it, before I kick it back to you, Derrick, and that is, there is, and I posted a link on toxic positivity. And so I'm not talking about toxic positivity. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about dismissing people's anger or dismissing people's negative experiences or negative emotions from this position. Yeah, to bypass it from this position of, oh, you just need to be positive, because that's incredibly invalidating. And I'm definitely not talking about just raising my vibration and floating around on clouds and that kind of stuff. But I want to talk about something that has cash value, meaning I want to talk about something that can practically help us, as we kick around ideas. What can we do that can practically help us to have a better experience in our lives when there's so much going on around us that we cannot control?
And that, let me say this about that, right? Because when you said that was going to be the subject, I was like, wow. I said, that's unusually simple for you. Because you're generally when you come up with topic material, it's at face value way more cerebral. but I had to put on my Aaron hat and say, okay, what is Aaron getting at here? Right. And I'm hoping that I catch this because it is still very cerebral. It is still very deep. And the thing is that you have to develop some sort of coping strategy to deal with all the shit that goes on, because otherwise you go crazy. And I know, like me personally, I tend to internalize things, and I'll let something get at me and get at me and get at me. Well, I did this. I did a podcast. I did my podcast live on Sunday, and I talked about why anger and hatred actually have a place in the realm of emotions,
Right.
and why if you don't have a channel for expressing that in a non-destructive way, you get intellectually, emotionally constipated. And just like if you get physically constipated and stay constipated too long, it could be fatal, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing, you could experience emotional, intellectual, spiritual death by being emotionally constipated. So when you said that, I said, okay, this actually is a really deep subject. And the thing is that I'm going to say something, man. I want to give a shout out to Carl and Laura forehand here, because Carl's going through a thing now. He suffered a stroke. There's been an obvious economic impact to that. And by the way, Jason Elam has set up a GoFundMe page, right?
Yeah.
Go to Jason's page or go to Carl's page and you'll get all the information. But please support this guy. Support that Carl and Laura, because they're really good people. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
But beside that, it's like Carl was saying, I need to find a job. Just very simple. And the amount of bypassing that went on in there, I'm sitting up here trying to putting my Carl hat on, and I'm like, okay, how do I cope with this? Because if I'm Carl and I'm saying this and people say, oh, just trust in Jesus. Oh, just, God is going to work it out for you. He's going to give you double for your trouble and all of these different things. And I'm Carl. And Laura actually went in on somebody, which I thought was beautiful. But all this bypassing is not it can't contribute to any positivity. So this is my thing, and I said all this to say this, that here's my coping mechanism, right? I've learned that I used to say, well, I'll use cuss words, but I won't cuss anybody out. Dog, I'm way past that now. I'm past that. That is, I'm completely, that is not beneath me anymore. That if you come at me with something really ridiculous, I'm just going to really go in on you, and I don't care. And so what I'm saying there is that I have developed a channel for my negativity that helps keep me positive.
Right.
Because the thing is, by being able to say something to really offset a shitty comment is cathartic. It's actually cleansing. It's healing. And so what happens is now I have an outlet for my anger. I have an outlet for my hatred, and I'm good. I'm good. I don't have to, like what you were talking about is like fake positivity, toxic positivity, right? I don't have to resort to that. I don't have to say, don't worry, be happy. No, I don't have to do that. I can actually say, listen, go fuck yourself, okay? And that helps to keep my positive energy flowing, because now I have something in my emotional, intellectual arsenal to deflect.
Yep.
Now, I want to say this before I stop talking, is that this is not going to work for everybody. You need to have outlet for your anger. You need to have an outlet for your hatred. It's like, people come up with solutions like, when people are angry that like for example, the guy that started Carrier air conditioning, who invented modern air conditioning, this guy was pissed off that that basically people were dying of heat related ailments during the Depression era. And it made this anger, this frustration that he had, made him go out and create the modern air conditioner. So anger and hatred can be used in a positive way. But the thing is that no bypassing. It's like bypassing doesn't help anything. That's not going to help you. It's not going to help the people that you're dealing with. It's not. And then toxic positivity. Oh, just keep a positive mental attitude. Listen, somebody posted something, and this was a really good meme. It said that when they first struck out on their own, that their rent was $300 a month. And Aaron, you talked about this, right? That when you and Julie first started out, that your rent was reasonable. So it's like if you say $300 rent, then adjusted for inflation would now be $800 if everything stayed steady. But the average rent now is $1,600 a month. That means that somebody is just padding, they're running up the score, to pad their own pockets. And so you can't positive mental attitude your way above base greed.
Right. No, you're right. No, absolutely correct. I want to be clear about something, because I know there are people out there, like if I talk about being positive, I know because of the way things get interpreted and the way I've gone at people sometimes on Facebook, and we're on Facebook, this is Facebook Live, the way you've gone at people sometimes on Facebook, and I say, America's so angry. And it was nice to be in a situation where people had manners and et cetera and so on. And people might look at that and say, well, that's hypocritical. That's you're part of the problem, telling people, fuck you. That's part of the problem, that attitude that we have, that we've developed, all that stuff. But here's the difference, Derrick. What I'm talking about, and see, people have trouble with me in real life, because in real life, I don't know how my energy comes across when I'm doing live stuff, or, definitely in text when you're just posting a status or whatever. But in real life, I'm a very positive, compassionate, warm-hearted human being. Until a high level value gets violated. And if the person persists, then it gets ugly. And that's shocked people throughout my life, because they're used to dealing with this really kind of nice, mild-mannered, warm-hearted person. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, I used to say I'd use the disc, the direct. Yeah. Okay, so maybe others out there don't, but it's like a personality assessment for work and stuff. And you have the direct person, you have the influencer, and I generally come up a high I. Yeah. And that's the person that people like to be around, that kind of stuff. But when I get pushed or under pressure, my D comes out. I say,
say that again.
When I get under pressure, my D comes out, and that means I get
Aaron whips his D out on you.
I need a drink.
Release the D. Sorry.
No, it's great. I think it's funny. So, but here's the difference, Derrick. Here's the difference. People are assholes over nothing. So I'll give you an example. We're trying to get off the plane. We had to stop. We had to change planes so we could fly home. Mm-hmm. And our plane was delayed, leaving Los Angeles. So when it landed, the stewardess says, please allow people who have connections to get off the plane first. And she said, we have about 20 some passengers on here that have connections, and they need to get off. So we knew we would make it. I knew we'd make it. I knew even if we were the last ones off the plane, we would still make our connection. We had an hour. We'd be fine. Yep. So we were letting everybody else get off, right? So once everybody behind us is moving down, I get up, I start getting the luggage and things like that. And the stewardess comes on and says, okay, everyone that has a connection is off the plane. So I'm like, okay. So this woman in front of me, the 3 or 4 rows, we grab our stuff, we start walking. She body checks me. She steps out in the aisle and she body checks me. Doesn't look at me, doesn't talk to me like I'm not even a human being. And she looks at her husband, who I'm sure was totally, can I say, henpecked? And whoever else was with her.
She had his ball sack in her sack, right?
Exactly. And they talked about how they were going to go home. So this was their destination. I heard the conversation. So she looks at me and she looks at them. She says, well, you're not just going to let these people get off before us, are you? And I said, do you have a connecting flight? And she said, no. I said, well, we do. And she still was a biatch.
She had a bad itch.
Yeah. So there's a difference between just being an asshole over, I'm not going to let you get off the plane before me. Who the hell do you think you are? And civil rights. Like, you know, stuff that legit you should be angry about. Trauma, suffering. You know what I'm saying? But that's not the world we live in. The world we live in, people get pissed off because you cut them off, maybe accidentally or whatever. And I'm guilty of that sometimes too. Or in Colorado, in California, one thing I'll say about LA drivers, in my experience, now other people's experience may be totally different. I've driven in LA quite a bit myself. I was doing Uber and Lyft and all that stuff. I'm a passenger. Mm-hmm. As a general rule, when you signal, people let you in. That does not happen here. When you signal, that is signaling to the person who's a little bit behind you that they got to step on the gas and get ahead of you.
Cut you off.
I swear to God. Because, you're not going to get one up on me. And so, and people say, well, we just need to agree to disagree. And everybody has their own truth. And we just need to let people speak their own truth. Listen, here's the thing. You can have your own truth about pizza. We can disagree on, I saw Carl forehand commented that he wouldn't wear that hat, we can disagree on fashion.
Just for that, Carl, I'm going to send you a hat. Just for that. I'm going to send you a fucking hat just like this. And you're going to wear it, buddy.
But when it comes to things like civil rights and important matters, and that's why I was saying higher level values, then it's perfectly appropriate to tell people to fuck off. Like, I'm sorry, if you are I'm at this stage. One of the first things I did when I got on Facebook was block people, because I generally don't block people. I generally don't, as a rule, because number one, I don't want them to feel like they owned me or got to me or even if they get to me, I don't want them to feel like that. That's just me. But there are some people that feel it is their mission in life to come on my page and set me straight. So the first thing I did was I found those people, I looked them up, and I blocked them. So I guess I just want to nuance the anger thing. Like, make sure your anger is appropriate, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's appropriate to say fuck. And I think that the problem is that in some cases, some people are just, I am convinced that some people are just assholes. I never used to believe that. I used to believe there was good at the core of everybody. I no longer believe that, Derrick.
I don't either.
I no longer believe that. I think there are some people that are just shitty people, and I don't want them in my life. I don't want them in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel okay with that. Completely okay with that. I don't think that makes me a bad person at all. So I just want to nuance that for people. Like don't. Anyway, I'll kick it back to you. I think I made the point.
And it's right on time. The thing is that we have this saying back in the hood, right? Don't let your mouth write a check that your ass can't cash. Right. And that's what you have now, is you have like a lot of people that they believe that they can say anything and that it'll be okay. Now, I tell people all the time, in the vernacular of of Billy D. Williams and Coke 45 malt liquor. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. Just because I'm a sweetheart now doesn't mean I forgot how to be violent. You know, just because I'm nice now doesn't mean that I forgot how to cuss a motherfucker out. Now I can do all of these things, right? And again, what you know, like you said, you don't want to block. You were like not blocking people because you don't want them to feel like they own your energy. I'm like at the point now, Aaron, I don't give a fuck. You can, you know, whatever you want to think of me, you can think of me, because at the end of the day, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that you're not going to fuck with my money, number one. And number two, you're not going to kick my ass. Now, does that mean that I could whip everybody? No, it does not mean that. There are some people that either have kicked my ass or can kick my ass. No, what I'm saying is that if you do kick my ass, you're not going to walk out of it unscathed. You're going to walk away with a limp. You're going to know that you know, hey, you're going to know you tasted some sauce today, buddy. That's what I'm saying. So because I don't have to worry about those things, which those are really base, you know, really base concerns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about all of the nuance. I'm not worried about what anybody says that affects my feelings or that I affect their feelings. I couldn't care less. But when it comes to like dealing with people on social media, it's like this, right? You're an exception, or Daryl is an exception, or Ben is an exception. You know, you guys are people that I have not yet met in real
Right.
life.
Yeah, that's
right?
kind of weird to think about, isn't it?
I know. I mean, but dude, I'm just gonna put it out here so everybody can say I'm gonna put the bromance part out here. Dude, you're one of my best friends.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
honestly, you literally, you are one. I mean, I love you and I trust you, man, like you just wouldn't believe. But that being said, you know, I have people that I have really close relationships with that I've never had any, you know, real contact with. And but the thing is that even still, there is a vibe, an energy, a mentality, a spirit, or whatever you want to call it, with these people that okay, there are some things like I'm going to call out another person. I have a friend, Irvin Reed. Irvin, if you're listening, Irvin is a preacher, and I want to call him a Pentecostal preacher down in Lower Alabama,
oh
right?
man.
And Irv is a Native American, right? But if you listen to him preach, you swear it's some black dude, right? Because you know he get the hoop on, right?
Yeah.
But Irv is somebody I had never met until like about 6 months ago, shortly after we had moved here. He had a speaking engagement near here, and he said, "Dude, I'm not coming this far and not talking to you." Now, Irv is a Christian. He's a pastor. He believes in Jesus. He believes in the power of all of that. He believes in all of that, right? I don't, but I believe in Irv. You know, and so as a result, there are some people who's and I'm going to pick on another guy. I'm going to call. I'm doing some name dropping tonight. One of my oldest friends, his name is Thomas Sharp, Tony Sharp, and Tony has been my friend for 55 years. 55 years. And I'm talking about unbroken, where we're in steady communication over the years. Now, Tony's a Christian, or he's a follower of Yah. That I'll use his terminology. And Tony and I don't agree. We don't agree on anything spiritually, you know. And when this abortion decision had came out, and I said, look, I don't want to have anything to do with anybody that supports this. If you support this, fuck you, go away. You know, get out of my life, get out of my Facebook. And so Tony came back and he said, dude, I'm sorry that you feel that way. He said, but if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. And I said, dude, you will never get kicked to the curb. You have a hall pass and you understand why. So there are some people that even though they may not agree, I may not agree with them, I may not be on the same page with them, but I'm still friends with them, and I'm really grateful for the people that have stuck with me through my transition and say, hey, I'm going to be friends with you. But I'm saying all this to say is that one of the things that helps me to stay positive in the negative times are some of the people, because there are people that I know that some of the things that I say really, really cut to the quick with them. I know that it does because I know them. And yet and still they say, Derrick, there's something about you and our friendship that transcends this. So I'm not going to make this the linchpin of what holds everything together. Right. So I say all that to say that when you talk about staying positive, we've talked about outlets, right? Having the right outlet helps you to stay positive, but the right people, having the right people in your life also can help, because and not everybody has to be in lockstep and agreement with you. Like people accuse me all the time. They say, well, you just want an echo chamber. Now, you know what? More or less, yes, I do, because I'm cool hanging around people who are of like mind as me. But for the occasional person that disagrees with me, as long as they're disagreeing in a agreeable way, and our disagreement is not along, say, like human rights, then we're good. It's like if we're, the nuances of whether or not the Bible is true or not, we can get past that. But it's like when you say, well, I don't have a problem with cops killing black people, or I don't have a problem with
Right.
with men that want to perpetuate the rape culture through through the decisions around abortion. See, those are things that are sacrosanct.
Yeah.
And they're not negotiable.
I don't think I wouldn't wear that or own that you want to be in an echo chamber, because here's the thing, Derrick, if that was true about your nature and character, you'd still be pastoring.
Dude, you just preached a whole fucking sermon to me. Somebody, hey Aaron, give me put your cash app in the chat so that people can cash app you, because you just preach right there, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't own that.
You have all now.
So, okay. So to recap, staying positive, having an outlet for your anger. And I have said this openly. I have said this publicly. I have posted this. Facebook at times is my outlet for anger. It is. I don't have a weight bag in my garage or my basement or whatever that I can go just beat up on. And so sometimes I just start shit on Facebook because I don't want to start an argument, and I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. Like, it's therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
And people have a problem with that. That's okay. That's fine. You have a problem with it. It's not my problem. So have an outlet for your anger. Have friends in your life that you can lean on and disagree with, or whatever, and again, this goes to higher level values. Like, clearly, Derrick, relationship is one of your higher level values. So if anybody comes at you contrary to that, they don't know you very well.
No,
and
don't.
So honor, and so this I want to use this to segue into the next part of this. And so I think a big part of this, staying positive in a negative world, is tending to yourself and honoring yourself. And that means knowing yourself and knowing what your higher level values are. So my higher level values include oppressed people groups, I guess, is the best way I know how to say that. People that aren't getting a fair shot. And I would include women being told the choices they can make about pregnancy. And then you have states, these states now that are trying to say you can't leave the state
That's insane.
when you're pregnant. So now you're a prisoner. You know, I mean, LBG, I always get it wrong. LGBTQ
Yeah.
groups,
Mm-hmm.
you know, non-white groups are very, very important to me as people. Their cause, their plight is very, very important to me. That's one of my higher level values.
Yep.
So I'm not going to keep people in my life that don't share those values. Why would I? So we could go have a beer together and talk about the Broncos. Like the Broncos are I love the Broncos. I love the Broncos. I am a diehard Bronco fan, but they're
Yep.
way down here in my value hierarchy. And everybody's value hierarchy is going to be different. So I think it's important if you're going to stay positive, you need to align yourself with you need to know your values, and you need to align yourself with those values and align yourself with people who are aligned with those values, and give yourself permission to distance yourself from people who are not aligned with those same core values that you have.
Yeah.
And so managing, I think the biggest thing I took away from my experience, you know, getting away from the negativity and then being immersed back into it, is attending to myself more, making sure I'm taking care of me, making sure I'm taking care of my field, if you will, in the best way that I can, and realizing, accepting, Derrick, what I cannot control. I cannot control the systemic bullshit that's going on in America. I mean, and I've almost always voted. I don't know if there's an election. I'm sure there's been a couple of elections that I've missed here and there and whatever. But we had the primary here in Colorado, and Lauren Boebert was on the ticket, and the primary was being held. We vote by mail exclusively in Colorado. So, you know, we're sitting here in Colorado, everybody's all up in arms about voting by mail. We're like, we've been doing that exclusively for years. And so the voting period was while we were on vacation. And the last day to get your ballot in was when we got back. And we got to the mailbox, or the drop box, at 7:02, and the polls closed at 7:02. They were collecting the ballots. We pull up, we try to hand them our ballots, and they say, nope, polls are closed. We won't take them.
Wow.
And I was upset by that. And then she ends up winning by like 40,000 some votes, right? So at the end of the day, us rushing around to try to get back home to get our ballots, it made no difference whatsoever. None. And so part of it for me is accepting, you know, we can't all be Martin Luther King. You know, we can't, I mean, trying to change the world. And here's where I'm going to get really cynical. And this is funny for a video that's supposed to be about staying positive in a negative world, right? But this is where I'm going to get really cynical.
But wait a second. Let me give you a license here, because cynicism does not necessarily correlate to negativity.
You're right.
So
absolutely right. Yeah, oftentimes it correlates to reality.
Yeah.
And so I mean, here's the thing. Like, here's my conclusion. Humanity has been shitty from the very beginning. Like, humanity as a species is predatory. It is selfish. It is. Just look at history.
Yeah.
We hoard resources. We hoard power. We dominate over one another. We kill one another. We disrespect one another. We violate one another's boundaries. That's just who we are as a species. That's just who we are. And you know what, Derrick? There ain't nothing you can do. There ain't nothing I can do or anybody else that's going to change that fundamental truth.
Yep.
So I'm not going to waste any more energy on that stuff. That doesn't mean I'm not going to vote. That doesn't mean I'm not going to use my voice, because that's part of my field. That's what I consider my field, right? If I want to affect my sphere of influence, that's very, very important to me.
Yep.
But I'm not going to let myself get emotionally hijacked by systemic problems that are too big for me to change, by sitting there being angry about them. And so again, I would just want to come back to this idea of managing myself, managing what I have control over and what I can influence, and changing what I can, and being the kind of person that I want to be, and being happy. And my primary goal now, instead of saving people or whatever it was when I was a preacher, is I want to be happy. I want my loved ones to be happy. I want my loved ones to be safe and protected. I want to be a light for people. I want to be able to share my path, and if that helps people, great. But I'm over wasting time emoting over things that I cannot fix or cannot change. Does that make sense? That doesn't mean I won't emote over it. It just means setting limitations to that. You know, calling
Yeah,
you up and saying,
that's
"Can
not
you
going to
believe
be a
what those
problem.
fuckers? Can you believe what those fuckers on the Supreme Court are doing now?" Bastards. Let me just share some irony. I go back 10, 15 years, and I remember hearing one of my mentors preaching about how he just thought the Constitution had to be rewritten, how it just wasn't fair. That was there 9 Supreme Court justices? Am I getting that right?
Yep.
How 9 people can control the destiny of America. And he was talking about the abortion issue, and this same person is rejoicing now because these 9 people sided and are siding with his causes. And the irony in that just cracked me up.
Well, you know what? There's something there like judicial fiat, right? Conservatives always rail against judicial fiat, and they say the Supreme Court shouldn't make law. I mean, the purpose of the Supreme Court is to interpret the laws that are passed by Congress and signed into law by the president. That's, you know, but every now and then a ruling comes that sets a law in motion by jurisprudence. But anyway, I want to get back to what you were saying about staying positive. And this is a thing. You know, you talked about turning inward, being, and I really believe that you cannot truly experience positivity in a negative world without first, number one, loving yourself. That is, having empathy and compassion for your own decisions, for your own shortcomings, for your own, faults, foibles, or whatever, right? And that also, and this is the tough part, is liking yourself. See, I'll tell you, man, people really underestimate the power of like. You know, we have some friends like Kyle. Kyle Butler's watching right now. Hey, Kyle. Kyle talks about the power of love. And the power of love is really, really powerful. And I really believe that if, big if, we can get to loving one another as we love ourselves, then we can change the world. The only problem with that is that there are people that don't love themselves because they don't like themselves.
Right.
And so when we talk about staying positive in a negative world, you cannot exhibit anything resembling positivity if you hate yourself. Now, I'm going to say something here that is surely going to anger a number of people that are watching. And as usual, let me preface this by saying, I don't give a fuck. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice. Clarence Thomas clearly does not love himself and certainly does not like himself. And I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna explain why. Because when you love yourself and more importantly, like yourself, you do not, if you're in a position of power, tilt your decision matrix against yourself. You cannot say that you love yourself and you're in favor of or proffer policy that is against yourself. Now, here's what I'm getting at. In the wake of the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade, Clarence Thomas came back and said, now we can go back and re-examine things like contraceptives and marriage equality. Clarence Thomas is a black man married to a white woman. The law, the case law that established the precedent for the legality of interracial marriage was Loving versus the state of Virginia in 1967. In other words, in less time than I have been walking the earth, has interracial marriage been accepted as the law of the land. Now, if you're going to attack marriage equality, whether or not our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community can enjoy the benefits of marriage, you are going to you're going to de facto have to examine interracial marriage. Only a person who hates themselves. I'm not talking about not loving. I'm not talking about disliking. I'm talking about somebody who absolutely looks at themselves in the mirror and says, I am a complete fuck. I am a complete cuck. I am a complete cur. I have no value. Only a person like that will look at, if they're in a position of power, will look at that and say, you know, I'm on board with that. You have to really hate yourself to even go off on that channel. And this is the thing. You cannot be positive in a negative world. Let me say this. If you don't love yourself, if you don't like yourself, if you are not in touch with the why of your life, then there is absolutely no hope for positivity for you. Everything that you encounter, it's going to be the exact opposite of the Midas touch, where everything King Midas touched turned gold, which was not a blessing, by the way. But I'm going to take this a step further, because if you don't love yourself, if you don't like yourself, if you're not in touch with your why, everything you touch will turn to shit in your life. Everything. And this is really interesting, because we're living in an age now where narcissism, where negativity, where all of these things are the du jour mode of operation, the modus operandi, right? And it's because the people, many people have not learned to love themselves, not learned to like themselves, not learned to respect their own being. And as a result, you're not going to respect the being of others. And because of that, because you cannot respect anybody else, because you yourself don't feel respectable, how can you be positive? How can you be even a beacon of positivity? I am absolutely moved by people like Kyle Butler, because Kyle will love you. You could cuss Kyle out. You could do anything short of slapping him in the face. And understand this, I would highly recommend that you don't do that, because Kyle is a big, strong black man from New Jersey. And again, you know, Kyle is all about the love, but Kyle will fuck you up. I promise. But the point that I'm getting at, and I'll shut up after this, is that you have to, you said this, you nailed this. how can you say that I'm going to be a beacon of positivity? How can I be an agent of positivity in this negatively charged world when I dislike, when I hate, when I'm opposed to my own self?
Yeah. Yeah.
How the
Yeah.
fuck can you be positive in that regard? And so now, Scotch time.
So I think Kyle put a comment here. Speaking of Kyle, he said, I agree that liking and loving yourself is no doubt key, but I have a question, if I may, about staying positive in a negative world. So if you're looking for permission, Kyle, you've got it. I want to hear your question. Then he comes back and says, that's right, I'm a bad motherfucker.
Yeah. And listen, I'm gonna tell you this is something like I happen to be I have an ability to read the room wherever I go. And I'm able to size up the energy of a room. And I'll never forget this. One time I was at a conference or an exposition, better yet, because there were all of these booths that were around, and everybody's peddling their wares and all that. But I ran across this guy, and he was from India. And I'm gonna tell you something. Indian men are some of the most passive men that you'll meet. But this guy had an energy radiating from him that if you crossed him, he'd fuck you up. I mean, and it was just like I was drawn to this energy, and I had to stop it. I had a conversation with this guy because I was just like, wow. So Aaron, you're a big guy. Kyle is a big guy. These are people that I've met in real life. But I'll give you another example. Another friend, a mutual friend of ours, Lynn Bennett. Lynn is not a big guy. Lynn is not a big guy, but Lynn looks like he ain't far removed from the hood. So it's like basically you wouldn't want to go into a sideways mode with him. What I'm getting at is that basically there is an energy that is, and let me say this too, right? Because I got, this is it. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm always trying to I'm struggling trying to find the exact words to say, but this is it, is that positivity does not equal passivity. That's the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's the term that I'm looking for. It's like, just because somebody's positive, just because they have good energy, doesn't mean that they're a punk. It doesn't mean that they're passive. And so when you were talking about your energy, people look at you and they say, oh, well, Aaron is a nice guy and all of that. But it's like, man, I read your room years ago, and I'm like, hey, somebody you just want to, dance in sideways with. He ain't that guy.
That's that Scotch Irish heritage.
Maybe that's the part that we connect on, as a Scotch Irish, or maybe down below the surface, you got a little Negro in you too.
Yeah. I've had several people tell me I was probably Negro in a past life, and I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah. No, I think you make some really excellent points, and I think it's important. It's important to nuance it and define what does positivity mean, because again, this is one of those terms that can mean a million different things to a million different people. If I say being positive, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do I make a movie out of that in my mind? What does that look like? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? And so, again, not talking about this Pollyanna spiritual bypassing positivity or this negative, or what I would call toxic positivity, but I would say keeping a baseline of feeling good about yourself and about life. And that's not always easy to do depending upon your circumstances, right? So I wouldn't want to come to someone who just lost a spouse or a child or I don't want to. I know a lot of women right now that are really upset because their rights, they feel like their human rights have been taken away from them because of the decision of the Supreme Court on Roe versus Wade. I don't want to devalue their experience. See, to me, part of being positive is valuing negative experiences. To me, that's part of being positive.
Yeah.
Saying it's okay to be depressed when you're depressed. It's okay to be angry right now. It's okay to be upset right now. That's part of being positive. Or if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling depressed, honoring those things that are inside of you, and honoring your experience and honoring someone else's experience, to me, that's part of being positive. So it isn't this sort of pop, psychology bullshit that's been being sold for a century now, at least in self-help. And I'm not negative on all that stuff either. I think there's a lot of great stuff out there. But I think it just needs to be nuanced. So that's what I would say about that. So I think that's what we're doing in this conversation a lot is nuancing it for people as well.
Yep.
Did Kyle ever get his question out there? Let's see.
He's got his question out there, but I'm extending an invitation to him.
So, oh yeah, that'd be great.
If he wants to jump in,
that'd be really great.
So yeah, let me.
But I think the point you bring up about loving yourself, there's what some people would term in certain wisdom traditions the objective universe, which is the world outside of us, and the subjective universe, which is the world in which we live in our thoughts and in our feelings. And if your subjective world is messed up, if you hate yourself, like you're talking about, you don't like yourself, you're loathing to a people group, let's say, for whatever reason, that energy system is going to manifest itself in the objective world. But by the same token, you can't control the stuff that's out there in the objective world. We'd be better served spending more time trying to change our subjective universe, trying to change the way we think and believe about ourselves and feel about ourselves, and then watch that. Once that change is made deep within, then see how that results in change in your actual life experience.
Yeah, I like to say that the world gets better one you at a time.
I like that. I like that.
If you can't, make adjustments with you, it doesn't matter what else is going on. And right. that's part of the issue is that everybody, there's a survey, a statistic that came from a survey that said 95% of Americans think that Congress is broken. But 95% of Americans think their congressman is doing a great job.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
It really is. Everybody thinks that the problem is somewhere else. It's not my guy. It's everybody else.
That's very interesting.
And that's part of the problem. And unless you're willing to say, listen, I say this all the time, that maybe it's me. I'm not above being the asshole here. I'm not above that. Maybe I'm the problem. But if I'm the problem, I'm going to find this out because I'm going to be introspective. I'm going to be able to look within. And I'm going to be able to make some value judgments about me, right? That may impact others. The problem is introspection is a gift. Not everybody has it. And even the people that have it, a lot of people that have it don't want it.
That's true.
So Kyle said he'll jump in. So click the link, Kyle. Click the link and you will be in. You will be in and we will add you in, and this will be awesome.
Dang, I'm gonna have to go pour myself some more peanut butter whiskey when he gets in here. I'm gonna have to put myself on pause. I left my bottle in the fridge.
Yeah, when Kyle said, "Hey, I'll jump in," I added a little bit of scotch to this. Right?
I'm gonna try to make this semi-professional. I'll wait till Kyle shows up and then I'll just duck out for a second. Yeah, that way you're not just like, where'd he go?
But I want to go back to what you were saying, and the post you put up about toxic positivity. That was, remember that in the world they say fake it till you make it, and remember in our Pentecostal preaching roots they would say faith it till you make it.
Yeah.
In other words, just believe it, just believe, and eventually you'll get there, right?
Yeah.
Believe it, just believe it. And that's the thing, this toxic positivity says that, hey, I can just believe and it'll be okay. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. You have to, first of all, and I'm going to pick on my man Carl forehand. Carl just saw this. Kyle said he doesn't see the link. Hang on for a second.
Maybe you can send it to him in Messenger or something.
Let's see. I can do this. I can reply directly to him.
There you go. Oh, that's my dog. Yeah, there you go. It showed up that time. I just want to stress, like, the toxic positivity is negative because you're not honoring someone else's experience, or maybe not even honoring your own. Like, and we do that a lot. We give people trite answers. We give people quick fixes, like you were talking about with Carl, and he's going through a difficult situation right now, and to offer platitudes isn't always helpful because it can make a person, I'm not saying it's doing this with you, Carl, because I know you're still watching, but it can cause a person to feel like they are doing something wrong, like they're not measuring up, like wrong for having those feelings, wrong for having those experiences.
Oh, shit.
And that then increases negativity.
Kyle
It doesn't
Butler.
increase positivity.
Kyle's in the green room.
All right.
Here he is.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey.
What's up, man?
All right, man. I am going to duck out for 1 second. I think my background's safe to show. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it's fine. Just no crotch shots while we're.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Make sure, show everybody I do have my pants on, so just so everybody.
There you go.
I'm not bringing the D out.
You know what? I remember one time I was on a Zoom call and I had on some pink shorts, and they were Ralph Lauren shorts. They were like actual shorts. And one of the guys said, "Derrick, do you have on pink hot pants?" I was like, "Get the fuck out of here! Pink hot pants, nah."
Kyle, it's good to see you, brother.
Hey, good to see you guys too. How you doing? How you guys doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Still there? Doing good, man. Doing good.
We're still
Doing
here.
good. Good. Yeah, I was.
Kyle,
I just got back in. I just got back in.
He broke out his preaching towel. He had to wipe his face in.
I had actually just got in. I went to get some stuff, and I was going to drive to go pick up my stuff. I said, you know what? Let me walk and let me see if I can carry this stuff back. I wanted to see if I still had it. If I could still carry the stuff back on about a little bit less than a mile walk without killing myself. So I'm still kind of coming back down because it's hot outside. So that's why I got the towel.
Come on, man! You were working the weight bag and the speed bag, and
listen, I got a reputation to protect. So
That's
right.
Right. On you. He's like, I want to tell you that if you don't love one another,
God is gonna
burn you.
Yeah, something like that.
So Kyle, you had a question. Let's hear your question.
Well, you know what? I was listening to you guys, and I definitely agree with you that it's if you don't love yourself, if you don't like yourself, you're gonna have a real hard time interacting with other people, especially on a positive level. And I definitely feel what Aaron was saying about, what, there's just some shit we just can't change.
Yep.
And I'm not going to devote any more energy to that kind of stuff because I realized by myself, I can't do it. And I actually posted something similar to that about a week or so ago and said, I can't, and I had made this decision too. If I can't control it, I'm not throwing my emotions in it. I can't. There's some things I can't change. I can't change systemic racism. I can't change bigotry. I can't change, child trafficking. I can't change it. I can only control what I contribute to the energy in my life and around my life and so on and so forth. That's all I can do. I can control that. I can choose not to be bigoted. I can choose not to be a racist. I can choose not to traffic children. I can choose not to beat on women. I can choose not to be an asshole. I can choose not to be a dick. I can choose to be kind. I can choose to be loving. I can control that, and I'm going to solely try to focus on that and detach myself from, things I can't control. And I had seen myself, especially after the last president, that whole cycle got someone like me who is not political. It got me enraged. And I felt rage, and I felt hatred, and I felt anger, and I started feeling like there were people on Facebook who would post things to support the last presidency, and I felt hatred or anger towards them, and simply because they had made a choice of, politically. And I realized one day, I don't want to be that way. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't have to like what you're saying, and I have to like what you're supporting, but I don't want to feel any negative feeling when I see you. Because now I can't separate you from the person, the political, I can't. Now it's really hard for me. So I remember I said, well, what do I need to do that? I need to stop watching the news. And I wasn't a big news watcher, but I had got engaged. And so now this is my thing. So I decided to do that because I knew that was a trigger. I get up in the morning, I watch the news, I read it on my phphone, and I get triggered. Oh, that damn Trump idiot, that kind of thing every morning. And then I see people throughout the course of the day, you're an effing idiot too, kind of thing. So I said, okay, let me stop that. And let me see if I can detach myself emotionally from the whole thing. And I stopped watching the news. I started reading it on my phone. I stopped watching it. And I felt, what? There might be a time I go back to it, but at least now I'll know how to not get emotionally connected and involved with it, because I don't want to be that way towards people. I don't. My mom voted for Trump, and my mama, and we've sat around the Thanksgiving table and this table and that table, and her children, like said, what, in essence, what the hell is wrong with you? But that's what she did, I can't hold malice toward my mama. That's my mama. And for whatever reason, that's just what she felt like she wanted to do. So, okay. So, but back to my question. See, I guess statement now, probably more than a question. I had made a decision to be positive, and I grew up in a lot of adverse shit, and that's just the truth. I mean, there was a level of poverty that most people may not have experienced. There was a lot of dysfunction in the family that maybe a lot of people didn't experience. There was trauma. There was my own, because I was always, I guess, quick enough here to kind of understand life very early. And I knew that the man that was raising me wasn't my father, and he didn't really want me as far as I was concerned. And then the man that I heard was my father, obviously he didn't want me because I didn't even know who he was. So at 8 years old, I'm battling with this, what's wrong with me? So now that trauma is developing on the inside, and self-hatred is developing on the inside, and all this stuff. But I do remember, though, kind of in my early teenage years, deciding to be positive, because, it was a whole lot of shit that could have just made me turn to drugs, hit the streets, be a person that was really, really hurt, out of his hurt, could have really turned to some things that only added or aided in further destruction of his life. So that was a choice. And I didn't even know anything about self-love. Self-love is something new over the last couple of years. I'm just starting to discover, understand, embrace, learn how to do, self-acceptance and all this kind of stuff. So I wonder, is being positive in the negative world, is it also a choice? Is it even though you may not quite love yourself or even know how to do that yet, even though you may decide, you know what, I can't give my attention to these things anymore. Can we still be? Sure.
And it's this, right? That in order for you to be positive, right? If you don't love yourself, if you haven't tapped into that, then I think that you're not being authentic. And that's just me. See, and so when I look at you and I look at the level of positivity that you exude, right? And again, I think that I'm good at reading a room, right? So I look at you and I say, this is a cat that really loves himself. This is a cat that's really in tune with himself. Because if you're not in tune with this, there's absolutely no way that you could exhibit and manifest this kind of positivity. And so I know, like you've said a lot of things over the last year that, hey, I'm learning how to love myself. But the thing is that I believe you're selling yourself short because you've already gotten there. You've already gotten to the point where, hey, I'm looking in the mirror and I say, I love who I see. I like who I see. And so as a result, it's easy for me now to express and manifest this to someone else.
Gotcha.
That's
yeah,
my,
that maybe that is a part of it, but I don't know, bro. I just, for me, as I've done this intense inner work over the last year, the very first thing that really started to reveal itself is that I don't love me. I was doing things that was so self-sabotaging in areas of my life that I really wanted to be part of and I really wanted to have love and relationship particularly.
You can be making mistakes. You can be making missteps, but that doesn't take away from the actual love. Listen, I'm going to say this, and I want to say this to, hopefully this will encourage you, right? Because I've actually, unlike Aaron, I've actually met you face to face on multiple occasions.
And I'm still coming. I mean, we got a date by the pool.
Listen,
some smoked meat, man.
That's
on the list,
dude.
That's on the list.
That fixes everything right there.
That's on the list. So,
guys, my 60th birthday is coming up, and
that's on the list.
I'm gonna send out the invites. But here's
let me just. I'm sorry. Can I just say one more thing? Let's be clear. Derrick is my brother. I mean, he invited me on the video tonight. I'm just not a Facebook stranger for the audience listening. Derrick and I are brothers, and we spent time together on multiple occasions. We talk.
Oh, and I've met his mom. I met his mom, and he's talked to my mom.
Yeah. So we're actual brothers. So I just want the audience to know that, because I don't want the audience to think that we're at odds. And even if we were saying different things, that's not going to change the fact that after this call, it's very likely we're going to be on the phone together.
Yeah. So can I interject my thoughts on that? I absolutely. I think everything begins with intention, right? So like what you're calling a decision, I would call intention. Like you recognize where you're not at whatever point in your life. You said, I want to be positive, even though I've had some horrible rejection, some horrible childhood trauma. So I'm recognizing where I am at the moment and where I want to be, and I'm recognizing the gap, right? So I have to make a decision that I want to close that gap. Otherwise, nothing can happen. So I think you're absolutely correct that it has to begin with a decision, has to begin with an intention. I mean, I think closing the gap is a process, especially for people, because I had suffered a lot of childhood trauma, and I don't want to, cry me a river over that stuff just for me, because I can go there in a hurry. But for people who've suffered rejection, deep childhood trauma, that stuff stays with you, man. That stuff gets deeply ingrained in your subconscious. So we can have selves. We're not just one self. We are selves, and we are selves in different contexts. And so there are contexts I really, to go back to what Derrick was saying, I really like myself. Like there are things about me in different contexts that I can celebrate. And then there are parts of me in other contexts that I still don't like so much.
Look,
you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's a process to close that gap. And so both can be true. You can love yourself and also be working on loving yourself at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
All right. So Carl Forehand is joined in.
So Carl,
in the green room. So we just.
I have nothing to say.
Well, we're just having a party. I mean, we just need to make this happen physically at Derrick's house where there's smoked meat, because that fixes everything. That and a cigar and some scotch.
Well, listen, my humidor is full of cigars. My bar is full of liquor, and my freezer is full of meat. And
I heard you're full of it.
I'll drive down so I can bring some of that good Colorado lettuce.
Yeah, the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, we'll just have a great time.
Derrick's full of it.
But does that? I want, Kyle. I don't want to dismiss what you're saying and what you're.
No. Yeah. That makes that fits. That works, because I think maybe that was it for me. There were certain parts of me that I've come to terms with, and I think for me, how I decided to treat other people, and not that I've been perfect at it, because I've fucked up, especially in relationships, really badly in that regard, and I've come to understand why, in a lot of ways, and I've done a lot of corrective work in that area, and it's some of this stuff is unconscious behavior. You're going about life kind of unconsciously. You picked up some things you didn't even realize you picked it up. It wasn't intentional. There's things I had seen as a child. There's things I had been exposed to as a child. I know that there were some things I was very intentional about that I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to be when I became an adult. Some things I was extremely intentional about, and I stayed focused on it, and it never became. There's other things I paid no attention to. And then I found myself being some of this stuff that I was like, where the hell did this come from? So part of that inner work revealed that stuff and exposed that stuff. And I think I had kind of learned how to live a separate life, and kind of how I thought I was treating everyone versus how I was really treating everyone. And one was excelling very much so, and then I was really struggling in the other end. But I've learned how to bring those two together now, and really be intentional and purposeful about how I engage with everyone, especially people that I want to be intimately connected with on a relationship, marriage level one day.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because I want to see if you can help me with this, Kyle, because this is where I'm struggling. And I've lost relationship connection with family members and really close friends over these political issues. And because this is how I'm framing it and thinking about it for myself. These are not political issues. To me, these are some of these issues. Black Lives Matter. That's enough right there. We'll just say that one.
It's not political.
Or guns, like the safety of our children in schools, and the fact that you want to.
No, that's not political. That's a human issue.
And so I start wondering about what's at the core of that person. What's at the heart of that person. Here's my concern when we say, because I hear you say, and I agree, man. Listen, I didn't listen to anything political until the pandemic for years. I went at least 8 or 9 years. I didn't read an article. I didn't watch a program, and I was chilling. I was good. And my philosophy was, it doesn't affect my life. So why am I giving energy to this? I need to give energy to these things. And then when the pandemic happened, now all of a sudden policies, I'm really aware these policies are affecting my life. But see, here's the problem. It's affecting my life, and that's a problem. I wasn't aware of like Trayvon Martin. I wasn't aware of when Black Lives Matter got started. I wasn't aware. And so where I'm struggling right now, especially like with groups that talk about oneness and love and light and all this stuff, is okay, if that's true, then I need to care not about the pandemic because it's affecting my life, because I have an immune compromised son that I'm worried about and I don't know what this disease is. And so now all of a sudden I'm paying attention. I need to be paying attention, but because there are other people that are suffering. And if I can feel, to quote a scripture, if I can be moved with the feeling of that infirmity, right, then I need to be.
Let me say
so
something
here's
here.
my concern. Let me just get this question in real quick, Derrick. Here's my concern. If we say, okay, I'm just going to pull back from that. If I go back to that posture, I'm just going to pull back from that. My concern is because they're not pulling back. They don't give. They express their opinions very strongly, and they don't care how rude or how mean or how hateful they are. So there is a force and a push that's coming. And if the rest of us that feel differently just say, hey, I don't want to feel negatively, and pull back, then are we making it easier for oppression to exist? That's my question. That's where I'm struggling.
And that's a very good question. And I want to, here's the thing. I say to people, it shouldn't have to happen to you for it to matter to you.
Right.
There's shit that goes on in the world. That's just like, you know, when I was a Christian pastor, I would say like, oh, you know, it's Sunday morning. I got to go preach. We're going to church. I can't find the car keys. Oh, I'm praying, Lord Jesus, help me find my car keys. So I find the keys. Oh, praise God. God wanted me to get there and get this word out. So he helped me to find my keys. But I found these keys at the expense of someone who was praying for their child to live. So I get a blessing at the expense of someone else. And that was what changed things for me. But anyway, Carl's in here.
Hi, Carl. I didn't mean to ignore you, but I wanted to get that. I do want to hear Kyle's thoughts on that, because that's where I'm at right now. Because it'd be very easy for me coming back from this vacation to just pull back and say.
I think Kyle's one of the best teachers in that area, because he's kind of awakened some of us to the idea that you can't just change the world by wanting to change the world. You change the world by changing yourself. And then when you change yourself, you begin to affect the world around you. Yeah. But also, you know, to the other point of not watching the news, I hear that, right? I hear, you know, it's just too much. And there's times in your life when you have to pull back from it. But this week and the past week, if you were watched the hearings, you would have seen people getting to a point where they finally stand up for the right things, like integrity. The Department of Justice people, and then this 25-year-old girl that finally stood up to the bully. And those things are important. Those are the things that really make this a great country. Those are the great things that Christ taught were things like that: integrity, justice, you know, authenticity. And no matter what political party we're in, then stand up when it counts. And I think we lost him. Dang it. So
still there. He just turned off his video.
Okay. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I really didn't have a lot to say. I'm just glad to be here hanging out with you guys. Makes me look better. I'm just kidding.
I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna buy
you look better with a hat.
I'm gonna buy you one of these
hats. Not that hat though. That's not a Carl hat. He said I want to put on a Carl hat, and he's wearing that goofy hat.
I'm gonna buy you one of these hats, and you're gonna wear this hat.
Yeah, right.
Listen, I'm gonna work with Laura on this, and she'll make you wear the hat.
Laura doesn't like bad-looking hats like that. No, I'm just kidding.
Bad-looking hat.
Good on you.
This hat is the shit,
it looks
man.
Good on you.
I'm channeling my inner Ben Urban here.
Yeah, Kyle.
Hold on, I'm
okay.
You know what? Look at this. Laura just said, "Do it, do it."
Yeah,
I'm gonna say that, Carl. I'm gonna say
I had one more thing to say. on the negative side, I'm kind of in agreement. I heard Derrick talk about it a little bit, but sometimes what we would consider as negative. My mom considered anything. Who was also a Trump supporter, like your mama. So when she would consider anything loud to be negative, or anything where you're disagreeing to be negative. But negative, in my opinion, I heard Derrick comment sometime this week about, kind of the thought of, if you don't stand up to things, it's never going to get better. And that's got to come across as a negative. People comment about me talking about the church, saying I talk shit about the church, or I'm bashing the church.
Yeah.
But I'm really being negative about the church, because what the church is doing is not positive, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be, something needs to change, or it needs to die. And so if that comes across negative, I'm sure MLK's thoughts seemed negative at the time, because they were going against the norm. And so,
Well, let me say this, Carl, because I've
yeah, go ahead.
your port on some of your posts, and you're not being negative.
Right.
Listen, here's the thing, that for centuries, for 2 millennia, the church has got a hall pass, and nobody has said anything about what is negative about it. People always speak in the affirmative, or they speak in the positive, and it's not that way. There's a lot that the church has done to actually harm humanity. And so when you speak up on these things, it's not being negative. Basically, I tell people, it's not the church being denigrated, it's the church being called out. I just got to say this real quick, that since I've got this car, my son Ducey doesn't drive anything else. I just watch my Tesla go out of the garage, and it's like,
Let's hope it was Ducey.
yeah,
Those are words I would never say.
yeah. We have 2 other nice cars, but no other cars go out there. I just watched it go out the garage, and I'm like, fuck.
Let's hope it was someone from your family.
I just watched my Sentra go out of the yard.
I've been drinking,
He
so
wasn't in front of
I'm
Sentra.
not driving anything. So
Sorry about that, guys. I had a call come in and it wiped out the sound and everything like that. So
Yeah.
I had to go back out and come back in. So
I'm glad to have Carl on here. But
I'm a filler. I'm a time filler.
I want to come back to Kyle. Anything else you want to say,
Yeah.
Kyle?
yeah, you the question that you posed, about pulling back and things of that nature. And there are people we know in the oneness and love community that still, say things that baffle me, seem to support things that I say, but this is not love. This is not oneness.
Right.
I had a chance to talk to someone a couple of weeks ago in that group, someone from that group, that mindset, that energy. And in my opinion, someone who is just incredibly misinformed and uninformed about some of the actualities that they have not yet found empathy, compassion for.
Right.
And we had a chance to talk, and we just kind of got on the subject. And because I have an experience that this person has never known and will never know,
right,
I had a chance to share with this person factors and realities and things that never crossed their mind. what I suspect is, you get the talking points from Fox News, perhaps, and that whole thing. So, there's a certain image that goes out about certain things, and it charges them and infuriates them. Most people in that group, when they talk about the riots, all they can do is talk about, well, all you guys are doing was looting and stealing. And, they won't ever consider what they will do if they were in the same boat. If they were first frustrated by the continual killing of their own, and then the frustration turned into just deep hurt, and then the deep hurt turned into deep anger, and then you got the hurt and the anger and the frustration combined together, and this energy has to get out. And although the majority of people with this hurt, anger, and frustration weren't looting and rioting, of course, the whole group gets blamed for it, and the reason behind it gets lost. And, we'll never understand that unless it's them. And if it's them, January 6th, now you understand it.
Dude,
now it's okay.
I'm getting worked up.
And this is just one time. This, you just feel for the first time in your whole lifetime the election got stolen. Now all of a sudden you wanted to act. We've been dealing with this forever. And I pointed that out, and the person was like, never really considered it and thought about it like that. But
Kyle, I'm gonna push back just a little bit, and I'm the whitest dude you're ever gonna meet. I'm from white rural America. My DNA is 98%. Like, dude, my DNA is 98% UK and 2% like Northern European. Like, I can't even claim like a 0.5% Neanderthal. Like, there's nothing there. But I want to. This is my struggle. Like, what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing you say is it's a blind spot. And I struggle with that, man, because to me, it seems like there's something really wrong in the core of the soul.
Yeah.
That is being addressed. And that's on a personal one-to-one level,
Yeah.
When you're talking to one person, and I'm not saying that we should necessarily judge that person, but I have a hard time not doing that, because when I hear that, I think bullshit. I think that there's enough information that if you cared even this much, you could get past that blind spot.
Yeah.
So the fact that they haven't experienced it or that they don't know about it, it's really, really hard for me, because that almost makes it worse for me, because I'm like, it's so easy to get past that if the heart is in the right place. And so for me, in my personal relationships, the decisions I've made is if your heart is that, I'm sorry, and maybe this is judgmental, and y'all call me to task, please. I mean, I'm open to being rebuked. I really am, by you guys. I just for Facebook land. I know these guys love me. The rest of y'all, this is not an open invitation to you.
I don't want to see one comment, not one comment.
Exactly. But to me, I start looking at that and I start thinking, is this the kind of person I want to invest my time with, which is an unrenewable resource? Is this the kind of person that I want around my children? So I can't give them a pass because it's ignorance or a blind spot or anything like that, because my experience is, I just can't. I just struggle with that.
Yeah, I do think that there is a great, well, let me say it this way. I think that there is a segment that does operate in an uninformed, and maybe choosing to stay uninformed environment.
Yeah,
and I do
that's
think
what bothers me. What causes you to make that choice? Like, I'm looking deeper. What causes you to make that choice?
Because you're saying, like, listen, I didn't grow up in an environment where I was exposed to this stuff, but on a heart level, this stuff touched me, and because it touched me, and I think Carl can probably say the same thing. I think what I really appreciate about Carl and Laura was they were going to some of the rallies and some of the marches and stuff, and I was like, damn, like why? Like why? And I can only gain from that is that it touched them on the heart level.
Yeah,
what they
that
saw, it
articulates it
touched them
right.
on a heart level, and they said, we've got to do something. I want to go. I want to go see this and be part of it. And maybe I'll make it worse by being there because I'm white. But my heart won't let me stay away from it. And that, and I think there's a growing segment of people like you and Carl that are starting to understand that from the other side. Yeah. And my hope and my optimism is that will continue to grow, and that other group of people that are part of the other side that do have a heart issue, and I'm not denying it, and I can't deny it, that they're not people that do have a solid heart issue and they're okay with it and they want to keep their heart issue and they don't want to let it go. And I pity people like that. I pity the people who I can feel your hatred when you look at me in a store. And I laugh because I say, you're so miserable. You're going to go back home, be pissed off all day because you saw a black man in your store. I'm going to go home, be happy.
Yeah,
so, you know, who wins? Who really wins? I win.
Right.
So, hey, Kyle, when I was in D.C. In 2020, I went by myself. Laura, I didn't get to go. And so I went in 2020 on July 4th when Trump was flying the airplanes over the city. I was in a motel room that night and watched those planes go over my motel room. And then I marched with Black Lives Matter on, I think it was July 4th, the actual day, twice, once with the blackout and once with another group. When I was with the other group, it was mostly all white people. And it was strange. Really strange, and Hispanic people would come up. I don't know if that's the right word anymore, but Hispanic people would come up and look at us like kind of with the "what about us" look kind of thing, and the black people that would walk by would look at us. And there was an interesting look they gave us when they went by. The march got derailed because they blocked off all of the mall and everything for the fireworks. And then it got reinstituted, and so we walked. And then after the walk, I was riding it was kind of a van-like taxi, and there was a black man in there who was about 60. And I told him what I was doing and how excited I was about it. And what he did probably changed my life. Here's what he did. He said, he didn't say anything. He just kind of shook his head, and he looked at me. And what he said with his eyes, the thing I could see in his eyes was patience. And Kyle, you mentioned this just a minute ago, that for you, this has been a thing of patience. And I took that and brought it back into my life for many other things, all of my religious things I'm doing, all the things that, and I think that helps us in this area that we're talking about, because these things don't go away if you just post the right meme. They don't go away just because you get mad at somebody. And I was extremely angry about 2 years ago before I did this. But they go away when what Kyle preaches and what Kyle teaches of change yourself first, go inside, and then you're going to affect the world. And secondly, you're going to have to be patient, because everybody's not willing to change. The person that's behind you thinks you're crazy. The person that's ahead of you thinks you're stupid. And so most of the time, your echo chamber, like you were talking about, will agree with you, but those other guys are going to try to gaslight you and everything else in whatever issue you're talking about. So it's a long haul patience kind of thing is what I want to say about all these issues, about waiting for the church to change or die or whatever, about systemic racism that the Southern Baptist Church is doubling down on again.
Yeah.
I will never go back there. I will never go back to an evangelical church for those kinds of reasons. But anyway, I'm done. It's a rant for today.
I think that I said this, and I was talking with my sister before we started the show, and I was saying that there are some people who are outliers, right? That if you look at the bell curve of Christianity, Carl, you and Laura, Aaron, you and Julie, you guys are outside of the bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
You're you're not even in the tails of the bell curve. It's like you are what you would call statistically insignificant, and that's sad, but that's the truth. Because people have said to me, they say, "Well, Derrick, you paint Christianity with a broad brush," and I say, "No, I don't paint with a broad brush. I paint with a roller, and occasionally I paint with a commercial sprayer." I'm really on the whole Christianity thing because the people, the people who are speaking out about issues that are facing the country, facing the world, that Christianity should be addressing, are being addressed by the outliers and not by the meaty middle. They're not being they're not you're not finding these people in the median or the mode of the bell curve. That's not where you're finding it. You're finding them somewhere way out to the left or to the right of the bell curve. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that in order to get to a point of expressing positivity in a negative world, because that's the subject that we're talking about today, is that in order to get to this point, in order to be a beacon of light in the midst of darkness, you have to be someone who's secure in yourself, someone who loves yourself, and someone who likes yourself. And if you are not those things, then there is absolutely no way that you're going to bring light into an otherwise dark situation. And so I say this to say that, Kyle, I'm going to pick on you for a minute, because you say, hey, I've gone through a period where I don't love myself or I don't like myself. Dude, I've been in your presence physically.
Me too. Me too.
Know without a shadow of a doubt that you love yourself and you like yourself, irrespective of what you might say. I've actually seen evidence to the contrary.
It's true.
You're not buying it, huh?
No, I'm not buying it. Listen, I know you love yourself and I know you like yourself, and you could not be as effective in what you teach without that. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. You might have issues with yourself. You might have concerns about your being, but the overall analysis of yourself, you are someone who likes yourself and loves yourself. Likewise, Aaron, the same thing. You could not be the person that you are if you don't love yourself and like yourself. And Carl, the same thing. that if you didn't love yourself and like yourself, the three of you could not even be in this conversation. The three of you would it would be literally impossible for you to be able to speak on any of this if you didn't love yourself and like yourself. That is the thing that about each and every one of you guys, the three of you, that I absolutely, that this is something that when I look at you and I say, this is my fucking tribe. I couldn't say that if I weren't persuaded that that's how you are. And so Kyle, you may say, I've had issues with myself. Okay, great. You could say I've stumbled. I've had moments of uncertainty. Carl, you could say I'm not sure, and Aaron, you could say, man, I don't know. But the reality is that each of the three of you couldn't be in this spot at this time without knowing, not thinking, but knowing, having a certainty that you love and you like yourselves, because otherwise it would be impossible for you to preach what you preach or teach what you teach. It would be impossible. So, Scotch time. God damn
it. Well, that's hard to top. So
let's hit the comments real quick, and I've already given my son instruction to come and grab my phone so he can order Wingstop, because I'm like hungry as fuck right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm getting there myself.
I mean, I almost have like weed kind of munchies right now, and I haven't had any weed.
Kyle, what time zone are you in? Do you mind sharing?
Eastern.
Eastern. Okay. So you're 2 hours ahead, and they're an hour ahead. So yeah. I'm starving.
Yeah. So there's some real good comments out here.
Ben says, I'm bromancing hardcore watching this trifecta. That must have been before Carl jumped on. All three of you have been such an inspiration on my journey through deconstruction.
He doesn't have to romance me. Yeah.
But I'm sure all of you know that. That had to have been before you jumped on. I'm sure it'd be the
we're bromancing like a motherfucker here.
This is 3/4 of the desert sanctuary. It's always good.
Yeah.
It's always good.
Well, I appreciate you asking me to jump on. So thank you.
I like this. Ben says life is not just about fixing yourself. It's about, as much as it is about finding yourself. I like that. I like that frame. That's a good frame. Because again, those of us that come from trauma, I suppose people that don't, but especially people that suffer childhood trauma, fixing yourself is a big deal. And that becomes a religion in and of itself. And there were times in my life where I had to put myself in check with the self-improvement stuff, because it was coming from a core belief that I need to be fixed. And
right.
So
it's funny. I was watching Fight Club just the other night, and Brad Pitt says self-improvement is masturbation. He says self-destruction, on the other hand. Taryn Jerome Harris, one of my favorite people, he says, Derrick Day, you have to pray for these kind of people.
Yeah. Karen Jones, this is so good. And I feel like I'm championing, you know what I'm trying to say, this cause right now. She says, when my husband died and people told me religious platitudes, it just pissed me off. And that's what I don't think people don't realize. Like when we throw platitudes, we did this a couple weeks ago, I think right before I left, this idea that's in the New Age movement that we plan our lives like it's just some kind of big play. And you know, whether that's true or not, that information is not helpful to someone when they're in the depths of despair.
No.
And Karen also says here, we don't agree about Christ, but I see you as someone who agrees with all of Christ's principles that I believe are non-negotiable. Why we share those principles, human rights, isn't necessary to agree on, in my opinion. I respect your values, however, we both have arrived. Listen, I want to just say about this is that, Karen, I believe in you, but fuck Christ.
Well, the confusing thing of that statement to me is if you agree on the principles of Christ, why did you create extra principles that make you separate? If you agree on those principles that unite you, who told you to have those extra principles that are dividing you? That's just that's my initial reaction to that. I don't know Karen, so.
Now, Karen is a friend of mine. She follows my public page, and she has been she has challenged my perspective, but I stay steadfast, and we agree to disagree. But Ben Urban says Clarence Thomas is the Paul Washer of the Supreme Court.
Did he mean to say ball, or what was he? I didn't understand that comment. I don't know.
No, I understand it completely. Paul Washer is a evangelical. Okay, let me just say this. He is an evangelical fuck up. And so that was a good call. Yeah, I'm not going to mention Kyle's comments because he's actually on here. Let's see. Ben Urban also says, self-hatred is indoctrinated. We must be taught that we are garbage because we won't ever believe it based on our own innate sense of how fucking awesome we are. Yes, Ben. Yes. Real God is truly digging your own vibe, my friends. And yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Kyle, you posted a lot of stuff in here, man. I'm not going to read your comments because you're actually
fast typer. He's a fast typer. Takes me forever. I only have one hand now. So.
That was me. That was me trying to get that one question that turned out to be multiple questions kind of out. And first, agreeing with you guys because I thought what both of you were saying was on point, and I can definitely identify and relate with both parts of it. And I think that for me, when I talk about the self-love and self-like, I think it was deeper than what I was showing on the surface level, because there's been a lot of things that happened in my life that made me really, on a deep level, hate myself, on a very deep level. And I think that my experience with church, pastoring, and all that stuff, and it's kind of ironic, we got 4 former pastors here. But I was thinking about that while I was looking at the screen. I was like, damn, there's 4 former pastors here. This is awesome. But I think I had learned early on, because of so much of the shit we had gone through as children, to push stuff down.
Right.
To just push it down, ignore it, pretend it didn't bother me, pretend it didn't affect me. And a lot of that was, self-hatred. This, and then I learned how to coast through life with the hallelujah anyhow mentality.
Yeah.
And because that was the environment I lived in, and all the stuff we went through, it was like, well, hallelujah anyhow, I would hear all the time. So you develop this mindset that you just pretend that everything is okay. You don't really address anything or deal with anything. You don't talk about anything. You don't talk about the huge elephants in the room that are always there. And so I just suppressed and suppressed and suppressed.
Stays the same.
Yeah, and I think that I was able to, because of that hallelujah anyhow mentality, I was able to project a sense of self-love and self-like, but at the deepest core of myself, it was really, really lacking. Really, really lacking.
Yeah.
But hang on,
someone can tell me, like, Derrick, I would listen to everything you were saying and the complimentary thing you were saying, but I still struggle with being able to embrace it and say, yeah, he's right. You know, and that's how.
But here's the thing, Kyle, is that I think, is it 3 or 4 occasions that we've been together? I don't remember the exact number. It's either 3 or 4.
Two in New Jersey, and then one at the
3.
Yeah, so 3.
So 3 times that I've been in your presence, right? And 3 times I've been able. I was saying to Aaron at the beginning, I'm really good at reading a room. I know how to read a room and how to speak to what needs to be spoken to in the room.
Yeah, me too.
And Kyle, you are one of the most secure in yourself people that I've ever met in my life. Ever.
I think he's saying he didn't get there without some work. There was a lot of work.
Carl, listen, I say this all the time. I quote you on this, and Aaron can back me up. I say this all the time. I said, Carl Forehand always says, do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kyle, I have a new appreciation for you, brother. I mean, I love what you put out, you know, because you're always like, you make me ashamed of myself because you're always very positive and loving, and you radiate light. But you clearly have been engaging in doing the work, because I understand everything you were saying. I understand, coming from a similar type of background where you can present a persona and you can hear things and you can't internalize it, and yet to have that much level of self-awareness is, I would agree with Derrick in this sense, is an expression of self-love, because you're able to give voice to those parts. Like when you're talking about repressing, if your experience was like mine, you didn't give voice to those parts. They were still there, but it was the devil. Let's rebuke it. Let's confess the word. Let's, that
really shadow. It's really just shadow.
Praise it away.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you can give voice to those things and allow those things to be inside you is an act of self-love. But it also shows me that you've done the work. And
our buddy Taron Jerome Harris also says that Kyle Butler is saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost.
But is he blood washed? If he's not blood washed, then forget it.
I have a really good buddy that we kind of cut our teeth together in the ministry, been friends since we were kids. And I was talking to him one day about 6 or 7 months ago when I was really deep into this year-long process. And he said, bro, there's so many people who begin this journey and then they realize how hard it is.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, I can't. I'm just going to leave everything the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right. It is fucking hard. It is, there was many dark days, many dark nights, but I instinctively knew I had to do it. If my life was going to be a full display of the stuff Derrick is talking about, if my life was really, if I was really going to have impact, if I was really going to live out what I felt inside instinctively for so long, I knew that I got to do this. I can't quit. I can't stop, because it was overlooked and undervalued, the journey for so long. There wasn't much work I did along the way, because again, I lived in a certain mindset. So, and it was emotional. It was hard. It was you know, I had to be very vulnerable. I had to cry a lot. I had to feel a lot. And although I feel I'm better today, when I think about it, I still feel the emotion of it because that's how hard it was. And I really honor people that are willing to do it. And I applaud them because it is probably the hardest thing you ever have to do, especially if you're doing it at a point where you've never really done it before.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with a lifetime of stuff. Yeah. You know, and one by one, as the Kyle that is me knew that I was ready for the next unveiling. Okay, now this one. And each one was a little bit harder than the last one. I mean, there was family things. I love my mom, but I couldn't even be around my mother and talk to my mother because some of the things that I was pulling out had you know, I had to learn how to deal with that anger towards her first inside, so that I can be able to be around her and talk to her and not feel what I was dealing with at the moment, you know. And it was just the other day. I realized I'm good with my mom again. It was maybe months of that journey. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff, you know. But I knew that I needed to be authentic. And one of the things two things I decided to do was make it public as much as I can. So a lot of the postings over the past year was me publicly saying, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing. And to help me embrace the image that I see, the image I had learned to hate, I said, I hate pictures, but I'm going to start putting a lot more pictures up in memes and different things like that with me. So I can see me more. It'll help me heal from this.
I want to address that because I have said to people many times that, you know, Kyle should be he should include more of his personal visage in his posts because you're a really good looking guy. And not only are you a good looking guy, but your spirit is conveyed in your images. I want to call up a post by a friend of mine. This is a guy I went to high school with, Judson Powell. He says, "Nice hat. I left religion before I moved to Arizona. My last religious job was to speak. Left me sad and unable to recall why I got into ministry in the first place. Most of the people I came across had church hurt. They have been continuously belittled, and I don't know what else is in there. But
can I say something about that when you get time?
No, go ahead, Carl.
Well,
go ahead.
I think kind of in response to that post and going back to what Kyle said, and I was listening to what Kyle said, and about 3 times in there he said, I felt it. He said, I had to feel it. Eugene Genlin that kind of instituted the focusing process said, what is unfelt is unchanged, but when it is felt, it changes. Basically, it's not exactly what he said.
No, that's good.
You know, when it is unfelt, when it's pushed down over 20 years of ministry, then it becomes shadow, and it doesn't change. It stays wounded. And Aaron, the professional's in the room, so anyway. But when it is felt, it changes. But what Kyle's trying to reiterate to you strongly is that frickin' hard work. That's real hard work. And takes persistence, like we were talking about earlier. I don't want to drag this out, but that's the key to the comments that church hurt. You know, you're not going to get over church hurt miraculously. I don't think. It's you can't bypass it like we've been taught to do religiously. You have to do the work. You have to feel it, just like Kyle's talking about. And he's an example who everybody that meets Kyle's says he's a person that loves himself. And the comments you've heard tonight is simply because of that, because he's done the work and because it was hard, but it was worth. I know he'd say it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
None of us are selling that except for maybe Aaron. I'm done.
Cool. Aaron, do you have anything else?
No, man, this has been rich. This has been great.
I know.
I've benefited from it, growing in real time, like we always talk about. So,
yep, that's the beautiful thing is that when you can grow in real time, that means that you're actually experiencing something transformational.
yep. Yeah, I appreciate Kyle and Carl jumping on with us. It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Took me a long time to realize I was even in, so you're gonna have to train me.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on your technology curve, Carl.
Yeah, well, one thing happened. The rednecks outside started blowing off fireworks. I had to move, but anyway. The last time I tried to come in, they started mowing outside. Anyway.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yes, like my guy comes up and mows on Wednesdays, and so right now it's kind of serene, but I've got to get first world problems. I've got to get my pool together before I invite you guys all out. Get the pool and the hot tub together, but trust me, guys, when you come out, there will be smoked meat, there will be cigars, there will be booze, all of the things. You will have a really human experience when you come to visit me.
Can't wait.
Okay. I'm not that far, Derrick, so.
I know you're not. And trust me, listen, guys, my 60th birthday is coming up, and I'm trying to get it all together so that I can have everybody. Did you already order?
No, you just have to get your food.
Not just order, man. Order. Just put in the order. Whatever the last thing is.
Must be nice to live in a city.
No, right? We don't have anything that delivers.
Must be nice not to live in Bobert country.
Yeah, I want the usual.
What's your usual?
The lemon and pepper, the garlic parm, and the Louisiana rub.
I gotta go, guys. We'll see you.
All right, Carl.
All right,
see you
All
later.
right, man.
Love you
Love
guys.
you, bro.
All right.
Love you
I
too.
love you, man.
All right, guys. Love you guys.
Bye, Kyle. Thanks for jumping on, man.
And-
Appreciate what you
Thank
shared.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Aaron. I think that pretty much wraps up, man. This was a good outing.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Derrick. Peace and hair grease, man.
You know it, man. That I love that. I love that closing. And so for everybody that's watching, thank you for joining in. And
Yes.
we will holler at you next week. Love y'all.